Did you ever notice that sometimes doing the right thing is just harder than it ought to be? This past September, I had a chance to tell a story at Gordon Parks Elementary School. Now, I knew it was in Kansas City, but I got on Google Maps to find out exactly where it was at. And Google Maps told me there was a public transportation option for getting there. Now, I live in Blue Springs, which is about 15 miles east of Kansas City. We only have 2 buses a day going from Blue Springs to Kansas City. They're both early in the morning, so there is rarely a public transportation option for going anywhere. But since there was this time, I felt obligated to do the environmentally responsible thing and take the bus. Well, Google Maps told me I needed to leave home by 5:50 in the morning to walk up to the bus stop to catch the 570 bus that left at 5:55. Would get me to the 12th Street Transit Center, where I would wait for 15 minutes, catch the number 11 bus, which would get me to Gordon Parks Elementary at 7:21 in the morning, a little over 2 hours before I was scheduled to tell my story at 9:30. Now that's quite a wait, I know, but hey, I'm doing my part to save the environment, so I was good with it. Now, I don't like to be late for anything. So I left home at 5 o'clock in the morning to walk the 4 minutes up to the bus stop. I had to wait there for almost an hour, but the bus came and I got on and we got off right on time. 2 miles down the road, we made our first stop at the bus stop in the lot behind McDonald's on Woods Chapel Road. Just pulling away from that bus stop when this car came barreling out of McDonald's drive-through and hit the bus. Now, neither vehicle was seriously injured in the mishap, but the car's bumper was wedged under the bumper of the bus. So we had to wait there for a tow truck to get the 2 vehicles apart. And of course, since it was public transportation, we had to call the police and an accident report had to be filled out. We were sitting there for over half an hour, well over half an hour. But it wasn't a complete waste. You see, the manager of McDonald's felt bad that one of his patrons had caused the accident. So McDonald's sent over a variety of breakfast sandwiches and hamburgers and drinks for anybody on the bus that wanted to partake while we were waiting. Thank you, McDonald's. Well, sure. I got to give that bus driver credit. She did everything in her power to make up time getting to the 12th Street Transit District. But we were still 20 minutes late. 5 minutes after my number 11 bus left. The next bus to leave the 12th Street Transit District that would get me to Gordon Parks Elementary did not leave until 8:52. It would get me to the school at 9:30. But by the time I got in the building, got signed in, figured out where the room was that I was supposed to tell, I was going to be late, and I don't like to be late. Of course, there was always the option of walking, and Google Maps told me it would take me an hour and 20 minutes to walk to the school. But it was a little bit warm that day, and by the time I walked to the school, I was going to be tired and sweaty, and, well, you know, that's not a real good way to show up for a storytelling gig. But Google Maps gave me one other option. I could walk down 12th Street for 4 minutes to the police station. And right across the street from the police station was a Bird electric scooter terminal. Now, for those of you not familiar with them, Bird electric scooters are the little scooters with the little wheels, you know, on the front and back, and you stand up on them to drive them. They're all around Kansas City, and you can rent the things using an app on your smartphone. After a 30-minute scooter ride, I would arrive at Gordon Parks Elementary at 7:26, just 5 minutes later than if I caught my bus. So this is what I was going to do. I walked on down to the police station. I walked across the street to the Bird electric scooter terminal. And, well, I have to tell you, it took me over half an hour to get that stupid app loaded onto my phone, figure out how to sign in, and get a scooter started. And did you know those scooters are not as easy to drive as you might think? I mean, it takes one hand on the throttle, and it takes one hand on the brake, and it takes one hand to hold your phone so it can tell you where to go. That 30-minute ride took me over an hour. But I got to Gordon Parks Elementary in plenty of time. I found my way in, I signed in, I got to the classroom, I told my 7-minute story. And I talked to those third graders about storytelling, and I was free to go. And now I had a little over 5 hours to kill. Because you see, we've got 2 buses going from Blue Springs to Kansas City. We've also got 2 buses that go from Kansas City back to Blue Springs, but they're in the early evening. But I needed to have lunch. Now, when I have lunch, I like to go to restaurants that have good names. You know, that's how. One time I went to this Mexican restaurant called I Don't Care. Isn't that a great name? You know, you go to your friend and you say, "Where do you want to go eat?" "I don't care." "Okay, that's fine with me." And then another time I went to a barbecue joint. It was called Oink and Moo. Don't you like that? Well, Google Maps tells me that 4 minutes from Gordon Parks Elementary is a sandwich shop called Frickin' Frack. Okay. Now, don't you love that name, Frickin' Frack? So I walk on down to Frickin' Frack, and when I get to Frickin' Frack, I find out Frickin' Frack doesn't open until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's a little late for lunch in my, way I was brought up. But never fear, because 2 minutes down the street is a taco joint called Drunken Worm. And that's almost as good as Frickin' Frack. So I walk from Frickin' Frack down to Drunken Worm. I order myself 2 pork belly tacos, a side of fried plantain chips, and a Coke. Well, 3 hours and 5 refills of my Coke later, the manager comes over and asks me to please leave. I can't really be too upset because, she's been pretty understanding with me. So I've gone on out, but I've still got over 2 hours to kill. Of course, time to catch the bus. But Frickin' Frack is going to be opening soon. So I walk back down to Frickin' Frack, and I sit down on the curb to wait till Frickin' Frack opens, and it starts raining. So I jump up, and I go into the doorway of Frickin' Frack out of the rain, and stand there until 3 o'clock comes, and they open the door and let me in. And I order a piece of chocolate cake for dessert and a glass of water. Because quite frankly, I've had about all the Coke I could take for one day. Well, that cake was delicious. Oh, rich chocolate. But after I'd been nursing that thing along for about an hour, I started getting a look from the manager that said, "It's time for me to pay for my cake and get on my way." So I paid for my cake and I walked outside, and it had quit raining. Thank goodness. Well, I walked down the block and step off the curb into a pothole. Now, it's not a big pothole, but it's full of water and it's deep enough to fill my shoe. So I go on walking the rest of the way down the State Line Road, another block, going clump, squish, clump, squish, clump, squish. Get down State Line Road and stand there at the bus stop for about half an hour. My number 11 bus comes. Google Maps tells me I need to get off at the 22nd stop. Now, I don't know if they skipped a stop or if I miscounted. But when I got off at the 22nd stop, I was at 12th and Troost. One stop beyond 12th and McGee, where I was supposed to wait for my 570 bus back to Blue Springs. So I had to go walking down 12th Street for 12 minutes back to 12th and McGee, where I had a lot shorter wait for my 570 bus than I thought I was going to have. It picked me up, got me to Blue Springs right on time. I walked down to my house, walked in my front door at 6:10 p.m., exactly as predicted by Google Maps, exactly 13 hours and 10 minutes after I left that morning. And then I woke up from my dream. It was Thursday morning, the morning I was supposed to tell a story at Gordon Parks Elementary. And I discovered that I was not that all-fired environmentally conscientious as I originally thought. So I drove my car to Gordon Parks Elementary and told my story. Thank you.